Hello and welcome to the Link Up. Today we are going to have some insights into a lot of our discussion. Some might be quite revolutionary. I hope you, like me, however, will be much more knowledgeable on each of the topics at the end of the show. Our first insight will be on how to face everyday challenges and come out on top. That idea alone is revolutionary. So, how do we manage this? Well, we will, with the help of 12 keys to a strong finish, with Dr. Marlon Husbands, who's the Chief Minister and the founder of Sanctuary Empowerment Center. That's the title of his new book, and he will share that with us. And then, in our homage to Father's Day, which will be celebrated, I don't need to tell you, on Sunday, we tackle the uncomfortable topic of men's mental health. It's going to be an interesting discussion, and that will be with a certified New Insights life coach, Dr. Adrian Daisley, and a cognitive behavioral specialist, Bahamian Troy Clark. Now, it is Heritage Month, so Dr. Sharon Johnson and Jaslyn Hall join us once again as we take a look at how does one plan and celebrate heritage in a pandemic. Can't be easy, but they've been doing quite well so far this month of June. And we take a look at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I don't profess to know anything about that, only what one hears or reads in the media. So what is it? How did it begin? How did it start? Why did it start? Attorney at law Lalu Hanneman will be joining us. Unfortunately, the Palestinian ambassador won't be able to join us today because she's still under the weather, but she is asking that we allow her to reschedule, and we've told her that, get better soon, and as soon as she's better, we really would be honored to have her here on the Link Up. So, as I said, revolutionary insights today on the Link Up, and as usual, you can participate. You can send your comments or your questions to @CBC Barbados on Facebook, and you can watch our stream on Facebook and also on YouTube. So if you're watching via YouTube and Facebook this morning, nice to have you in company. And of course, to our TV8 viewers, it's always nice to have you with us as well. So we're going to get our first insight into how to overcome life's challenges with 12 keys with Dr. Marlon Husbands after the break. Now, first of all, I started off with my usual hello, my welcome, and so on. And I did not remember my manners and apologize for our late start. Having some, hiccups here technologically. So I do apologize for that. And I was just so anxious and excited to just get going that I did without apologizing. So So I'm sorry, and it can happen. One is human, so I certainly hope you forgive me. But it's a great way to segue into our first chat with Bishop Marlon Husbands. Dr. Husbands, of course, is the senior minister and founder of the Sanctuary Empowerment Center, and a dear friend. We managed to become friends when we shared the screen together in a mid-morning program many, many moons ago called The Chat Room. And it's so nice to see how this psychologist at first, but very, very spiritual individual has blossomed into the author and senior minister of a really well-known church doing great things within society. So, Marlon, it's really nice to have you spend some time with me this morning.
It's so wonderful to be here, Peter. Listen, there's never a time you can call me and I wouldn't be willing to come.
Go!
Our roots go so far back.
Yeah, likewise. And I was so happy when you sent me this. And truthfully, one of life's challenges has been to finish it. I've reached, you can see from my little sticky hooves, I still do that. I've reached somewhere like key number 5. But, you know, I said I really and truthfully have to finish it because it's been touching something within me personally. And I do believe that there isn't anyone, unless they're newborn, who isn't facing some kind of challenge at the moment. Their challenges might be diaper rash and it's too hot. But, you know, everybody's got something. Something's happening in someone's life. And when you look at me and you tell me that you're going to give me 12 keys to a strong finish, I'm thinking, finish? I'm just trying to survive here. So you're giving me an ending. This is great. So let's talk about your book. Let's talk about the why. Why did you think you had to do a book like this? And not at this time, because you had planned this and had it out before this whole pandemic. But why is it out now?
I would say, Peter, I was just speaking to someone who came to the office to collect 2 books that they had ordered. And they were asking me a similar question, you know, well, what prompted it at this time? And I directed them right back to the introduction. At the beginning, I said this manuscript was finished since 2019 of November, but I didn't feel the conviction to pursue it. Then there were some hiccups with the content design by the graphic artist. Then I didn't like the first cover, and so there were a lot of things, and I lost some interest. But then somehow, miraculously, in March of 2020, I felt this thrust again to really go at this thing. And so I could have only concluded that the timing of 2019 was not it, but this timing is it. And Peter, from the myriad of responses that we've been getting, people calling and saying when they were in the first key, they cried, they were crying. I have a videotape with the person who shared that with me. To persons using it for their own family devotions, including their teenagers, and how the teenagers are really asking questions regarding the content, and it's really stimulating for them. So I can ask that question by saying it must have been in God's divine prophetic calendar to have this out at this time.
Okay, well, since you introduced the introduction, I had highlighted a couple things that stuck out to me. And again, you know, I haven't stopped doing it. I've done that forever. So anybody buying a book from me, I'm telling you, it's very pretty on the inside, and there's scribbles on the side. So if you can get past that, then yeah, you can borrow the book, bring it back. However,
I can probably, Peter, show them mine. The scribbles,
wow.
the scribbles and the scribbles and the highlights and the highlights that go with it. You know.
Yep.
It is,
Same.
Even though you're an author, even though you author a manuscript, the reality is that same manuscript comes and speaks to you. Comes and speak to you.
Yeah, it had to speak to you though, because, but one of the things that I wanted to, and I said it was one of the first things I had to ask was, how can you make a statement in a book, and you were say, given that life is not fair? I said, I have to
Time.
ask about that.
I grew up with the philosophy that, people behave as if life owed them something. Ever since Adam fell, life owed us nothing. It was all the goodness of God, it was all the grace of God. And it's amazing how people blame God for how we are when it is man that made us how we are. The reality is that we are self destructing. And I don't get from our theories, from our philosophies, from our whatever, we are self
Values.
destructing. Correct. We are self destructing. And so it isn't a matter of blaming God because mankind sold out to an enemy who doesn't care about any of us. So the thing to do is that having been sold out, God came and created a platform so that we can be innovated, we could be redeemed, we can be the pain can be substituted, and even though it will never go away, the reality is that we can still overcome the challenges that come that we face. And let me say this: challenges aren't going anywhere. Only we can. We will forever have challenges, and that's the beauty about the content, because we don't I didn't make it look as if you will always you will once and for all have no challenges. No, we will always have challenges, but it is how we are structured to manage those challenges, and that's what the book is about.
Okay. You do mention that some of the challenges that we face, of course, are the myriad million and one sicknesses that there are around the world, especially with this pandemic as well. And then you talk about, financial predicament and relationships that have gone bad. So there is always something that is going on, and you do mention the age-old phrase that, if it ain't one thing is another. And I just want to give you a smile because Adsel Stewart, and I'm calling his name for everybody to hear, he has a wonderful sense of humor. And Adsel coins it this way: if it ain't Hartley Harold, is Wild Shepherds. So
If I knew that one before, I probably would have used it too.
and it brings a chuckle, so it's a way I always like to coin that phrase. But you do mention that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and there you go again with an ending, a finishing. So it is not a circumstance that is going to go on forever. This discomfort, this unease, this disease, that there is an ending to it. But how do you make that ending strong? How do you make it positive? So you offer 12 keys. Where did these keys come from?
They came from, I was doing first I preached a series on strong finishes. And from that series, I was taken right into the book of Nehemiah. And when God gave me Nehemiah, I was a little resistant because there's so many people who wrote on Nehemiah. They wrote on his leadership acumen, they wrote on his leadership skill, they used his model. So I Nehemiah. I said, Lord, why Nehemiah? And then the Lord very, very lovingly said to me, son, look again. Go back to Nehemiah and look again. So when I did go back to Nehemiah and I started to look with fresh eyes, it occurred to me, he said to me, do not look at Nehemiah's leadership style. Do not look at his leadership pattern, the success he had in leadership. He said, look at his character.
Right.
The gravity of it positions you to finish strong with virtually any confronting circumstance. So
Right.
it's the character qualities that's the thing that make us sturdy. It isn't the books we read are. Because you can read a book but it doesn't change you. So unless you're changed by information, unless your inputs do something to who you are, you will continue to flutter when you're confronted with your challenges.
Okay. I like the way that you coin it, though, that the term finishing, finish strong. To finish strong is to successfully outwit, outclass, and conquer any opposition. And that just brought immediately to my mind the game Survivor, that's a television race where they meet all of these challenges and face all of these challenges. And it's not necessarily the athlete who you think will win the game. It's not even the one who strategizes the most. Sometimes it's the one you least expect who endured, to the very end. And Nehemiah, his major challenge was building a wall, if memory serves me correctly. So then he met resistance from all of these different individuals and circumstances. So let's look at his character. When you talk about kick-starting a finish, and you lead off by saying, the truth is, you deserve to be happy. You don't know how that put a little poke there, because sometimes when you're going through things, you tend to forget that. You deserve to be happy. And that's a good way to actually kickstart a beginning.
Correct. Because in the introduction, I mentioned the million and one things that can happen. And then so the Lord said to me, but before you go into the keys, work with a kickstart. You got to kickstart your finish. So it is like having a wonderful and glorious meal during the middle of the day, but you need a breakfast meal. You need something to kickstart your day that will take you to the main meal. And so what he did show, we deserve happiness. And so strong finishes, as I mentioned in the first sentence, are predicated on the need for happiness. So here is, we have all of these challenges in our lives that are sometimes apparently surmountable, but we deserve to be happy. And sometimes we are so burdened by our challenges that we don't remember we deserve happiness, and there are ways we can achieve it. And then I said in the third paragraph at the beginning, there are so many living realities that stand in the way of our happiness, things that are orchestrated to hinder us from feeling alive. Peter, you remember that one? There are things that have been orchestrated that hinders us from feeling and being alive. Yes. So strong finishes help you to feel and be alive.
You say that theoretically, though, we have everything that we need around us to be happy. They're given to us. But for many reasons, sometimes we seek our happiness elsewhere and run into trouble. So let's take a look at your first key. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll just tell our viewers that the first key is to see your burdens as a breeding ground for a strong finish. He's got some way with words, I'm telling you. So key one, see your burdens as a breeding ground for a strong finish. We're going to take a look at that when we come back. Okay. Today we're sharing with you 12 Keys to a Strong Finish by Dr. Marlon Husbands, and you can take a look. We've been showing you the book throughout our chat this morning, and I did promise that we're going to take a look at key number 1. See your burdens as a breeding ground for a strong finish. Now, we don't tend to look at burdens or challenges or anything. Excuse me, my challenge today is allergies. But we don't tend to look at them positively. And that little sentence in there says a whole lot. So Marlon, talk to us about your thoughts behind that and about the first key.
Right. The precedent for my saying this is because, number one, it has to look at how you look at your picture. And there are two people that can look at the same picture and walk away with different impressions, emotional dispositions, and so on. And what I realize is that burdens are not meant to destroy us. And I sometimes use the word cat spraddle, which is a colloquial word. They're not designed for that. They're not designed for that. So when you see a boulder coming at you, you have one or two options. You can either stay in the way and be run over, or you can move out of the way and let it go on your business while you continue on yours. And what I did say in this chapter is that burdens are breeding grounds for strong finishes because strength is on greatest demand when you are tested. Your strength is not on demand when you have something that you're accustomed lifting. Your strength is on demand. And listen, Peter, I was in the gym with my boys and my whole family. All of us go to the gym. They continue to go. I stopped for a little bit. But my strength is on greatest. I have 135 pounds to press. So we think sometimes that the burdens are there to crush us, but no, they're there to position us to build muscle. And if we only look at the challenges in our lives like that, we would, number one, look at it with different eyes, and number two, we would have different emotions being confronting our challenges.
It's funny that you should say that, because that is how we don't usually look at the trials that happen in our lives, that they're there to make us stronger, to sharpen and smooth out those edges that we might have and make us better for it. We look at the challenge and we look at them sometimes as being unfortunate and something to be bitter about. But talking about gratitude, for having them can sometimes then bring out a really strong character, and that's what they're there for. But you also design your keys with, you have the information, the background, and then you also structure it in such a word that you have a final word, and then you have I was just about to have a visitor, I think, and surprised them. The final word, then there's a call to action, and then there's a prayer.
Yes.
So,
but
yes, go ahead.
Before we get to that, Peter, I also wanted to use the reason why I concluded that burdens are just testing grounds of your strength. And it comes from 1 Corinthians 10:13. It says, "Therewith has no test or burden overtaken you that is not common to man. But God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted above that you're able to bear." So what it shows me and what this tells me is that there is no boulder that is going to come at me that has not first been pre-designed and predetermined by God to come at me. It tells me that God is going to sift every challenge that comes my way, and that He has already known that I have the capacity and capability and ability to manage that challenge. So, as overwhelming as it may seem, the reality is if I look deep within me in connection with what I know God has been with me doing, then I am able to look at that boulder differently and sidestep it, or put myself in a position to stop it from coming and harming me. So that's the precedent upon which that statement was made, and the conclusion is.
Okay. As I told you, there are 12 keys, and that was key 1. And then in key 2, he's looking at favor as a necessary companion. And time is short today, Marlon. I am very happy to note that you're going through the keys with everyone on Morning Barbados. When they heard that you were coming today, they went, "He's what? But he's ours." And I'm like, hello?
They're different. They're different viewers. They're different
I
audiences.
know.
They're early
I
people and they're
know.
late morning people. So it's amazing how there are so many new people that will be hearing this information for the first time, Peter.
No,
Don't
I
don't let them
know.
don't let them try. And in any case, I was yours before I was anybody else's. So I am not. I'm sure I'm not going to run
Thank
in trouble
you.
for this.
Thank you. Well, I was like, okay. But no, I'm glad though that you're going through the keys, because they need time to be looked at, and because first of all, you've got to overcome the hump of people's
That's right.
beliefs
That's right.
and
That's right.
what they have been. I don't know. I don't want to use the word trained, but have come to know through family, parents, other people, that struggles are struggles, and how can you tell somebody to be grateful for a struggle?
Because I mean, the Bible says, "Be thankful in everything. Give thanks." When I thank God for the struggle I'm in, I am really giving that struggle to God. I said, "Lord, thank you for the struggle." When I say that, I am saying, "Lord, come into my midst and manage this for me." So I am thanking God for the outcome, for the strength, for the ability and capability to finish this struggle in a very strong position.
Okay, I'm going to steal a few minutes from my next chat. I hope they're okay with it. But the third key is defend your gates. Key 4 is sharpen your discernment. Now, that is what I have a struggle with. I can be a little naive sometimes, even as I've journeyed on this planet quite a long time.
Yes.
Priorities, priorities, priorities. That's key 5. Key 6 is be unrelentingly determined. Key 7, power of agreement. That's your secret weapon. Key 8, passion makes a difference. Key 9, be spontaneous in celebration. Key 10 is the glory is God's to have.
So many times God brings us through a situation, a circumstance, a test, and we think it is us who overcame, but the reality is that it was God through us that enabled us with that finish. So that's what that's all about. It's like people go to school and learn well, and they start to allow their brains to swell. That time it is God who gave them the breath to get up every morning. It is God who gave them the ability to comprehend the information. It is God who gave them the ability to internalize it and make sense of it. So at the end of the day, the glory is God's to have. And when the
Okay.
Lord told me that, I went like, "Ooh, Lord, thank you. Thank you for letting me help people to understand that had not been for God on your side, I don't care who you are, what you've
It's
achieved,
true.
you wouldn't have."
It's true. It's true. Key
So it's
11.
a means of
Sorry.
thanking God. thanking God. It's a means of thanking God every day for who you are, what you have accomplished, what He has allowed you to accomplish, for the years He has allowed you to be on this
Yeah.
earth, to see the things you have seen. So when we really start to break it down and do surgery on that statement, I tell you, ungrateful, ridiculous, and bewitched would have to be the person who doesn't believe that it is God who have them where they are.
I told you he
And I
has a
make
way
no
with
apologies for
words.
that, Peter.
I know. I know. I told you he has a way with words. Key 11, fight for what you believe. Need we say more? Key 12, go for the kill. Way with words again. The art of finishing strong. Which of these keys can you honestly say you have the most difficulty with, Marlon? Because you are human.
Um, I have. Do you know that's a question I never prepared. You mean the keys, or you mean the challenges that
Challenges,
allow
because
the
they
keys to
each,
be constructed?
yeah. Hmm.
I, I love defending your gates, because that speaks to your internal capacity. It targets the heart, it targets
Hmm.
the soul. So I treat the soul and the heart as the gate. And only on Sunday, I was speaking in my message, I was sharing about how there was a close friend of mine who passed just a couple of weeks ago, and he journaled about the heart. And he said, listen, there are all kind of hearts, but you got to be careful with the people who you let into your space, who you allow to come close to you, because there are so many people with different hearts. There's the ungrateful heart, there's the ridiculous heart, there's the sad heart, there's the joyless heart, and then he ends up by saying there's the broken heart. So imagine people with these kinds of hearts coming into your space. What do you think the result will be? It will cause your heart to be unprepared for every challenge
Wow.
that you have. It also speaks to the gate. So if the heart is the gate, no, the heart is the city, and the senses are the gate. So you have the eye gate, the nose gate, the smell, the hearing, the speaking, and the touching. So you have to be careful what you allow to come into those receptors, because whoever you hang with, you become like.
Quite right.
So it speaks to that. So that's one of the things that I believe, that chapter, that key speaks most profoundly to me, and it
Hmm.
always has me on guard to decide who I would let into my space. Another thing
Interesting.
before we go, Peter,
Hmm.
I have made the deliberate decision, intentionally so, that I will not align myself with people because of what I believe they can do for me. I align myself with people because of what I believe I can bring to their lives.
Quite right. Quite right. Mine, though, truthfully, discernment. And, not even just necessarily discerning people and whether or not they're honest or real, but the discernment of understanding situations and why they happen. What is the lesson? What is the message in it for me? So, yeah, that is a whole next another chat.
Yeah, because in the second chapter, it begins by saying the need for a discerning heart is developed around the struggle between good and bad voices, voices in your head, voices in your ears, the struggle between right timing and wrong timing, between God's spirit and an evil one. So those are really tussles come, and I tell you, sometimes we can be so misguided and misled by a person's kindness, not understanding the motive of their hearts.
Quite. Thank you so much, Marlon. I told you some revolutionary insights today. That's what you'd be getting on the link up. And I certainly hope that, in some way he has spoken to you. I'm sure he has. It always ends up that way. Where can we get your book, please?
My book is available only at our office, 4310016, or you can call me personally, 232-3961. And Peter, I would want to say that for persons calling, please be prepared to go on a waiting list, because the first shipment is already that's already out. We don't have any
Excellent.
more,
Well done.
but we have a shipment on the way, and it should get here within a couple of days. I've been on the telephone with my the person who does my shipping and so on. And they're already in Miami and they're on their way to Barbados. So
Well done.
we would just take the person's name and let them know when they get here so they can get their copy.
Thank you so much, Marlon. Thank you. And every little moment that I get, you know, but because I'm the way I am, it takes me a lot longer sometimes because I ask a lot of questions while I'm reading what I'm reading. So,
That's fine. That's fine.
but thank
Peter,
you.
I would tell you that your counterpart, your friend, my friend, our friend, says he drives with it beside him in the car. You know, he is in his seat, is in his office, is on his desk.
Listen, to get him to
That boy.
read, to get him to read, I mean, truthfully, to get him to read, you have done something incredible because that's not one of his favorite pastimes.
And the thing, Peter, is that I went for the first interview. And from that interview, I did 4 interviews, 4 successive weeks. And then by the second interview, he told me publicly that, okay, Dot Husbands, will be having you back on to look at each key over the next several weeks. My goodness, how could I have said no?
True, 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 true.
Peter,
But
thank you so much for having me.
You are very, very
Thank you.
welcome, and definitely we will have you back. It's always an enjoyable chat, and you stay safe, and your wife as well, and your children, and keep on bringing us strong revolutionary insights. We definitely need them in times like these.
Thank you, Peter. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And this is my third book,
Yes.
coincidentally.
Yes.
And I'm still working on another one. There's one in
Good.
particular, Father's Day around the corner, and I want to dedicate one to my father, called My Father.
Nice. Looking forward to it. Take care, Marlon.
Thank you. God
Coming
bless
up
you.
next, we're going to take a look, a nice segue into Father's Day. As I said, we're going to pay homage to the men in our lives who might be struggling at the moment. We get an opportunity to chat with Dr. Adrian Daisley and Bahamian Troy Clark when we come back. Our theme today is revolutionary insights, and it's the way that life happens sometimes. You get an opportunity to chat with many different individuals, many different people, and sometimes arising out of those discussions, and they can be quite innocent or, quite specific. Something else can come out of that, and you say, no, definitely, this is something that we need to share. And that happens sometimes when I chat with Dr. Adrian Daisley. Adrian has been on our show before. He is a certified New Insights life coach. And one of the things that I said to him was, Adrian, life is really, really difficult for men, not only during the pandemic, but life in general. And perhaps instead of approaching Father's Day with shouting out fathers and so on, let's look at some of the things which might be causing them some stress. So, Adrian, welcome once again. Nice to have you with us, and thanks for taking the time. I know it's a really busy time for you at the moment.
Yes.
But
the pleasure is really mine.
Thanks. Thank you. But let's look at it, because men have a role to play in society. But I truthfully get the idea sometimes that even they are not quite sure what their role is. Fair?
That's a great observation. Yes, it is actually very fair. And Peter, change for men should be a welcoming idea. COVID has made it, a condition for growth, stability, and everything it represents, stability that is, was taken from many during this crisis, especially men. Situations that didn't frighten the average man now does. For example, losing a secure financial identity. The challenge with roles for men is that they were determined a lot out of fear. What do I mean? I mean that men have used physical external things to describe who they are. And when those things are taken away, men automatically fall into the place of looking for who they are. The second thing is, traditionally speaking, we haven't really been taught what being a man is. And some of us have to raise our boys, for example, blindly. And we make mistakes along the way. Some of us learn lessons quickly. So I would segue and say that in my life, apart from my earthly father, the biggest influence in understanding the responsibility of being a man was through my connection with the Creator. It wasn't an easy experience for me, simply because I do believe that men need to have something physical to represent who they are. And this has been passed down to us through the generations. It is a wrong concept, but it is what we were given. We have to now go ahead and recreate that image of what it is to be a man. And men dealing with mental health during this time is really, really, really difficult, Peter. The telephone calls that I hear from men, and you would find out that I am one of those coaches who tell it like it is, simply because I realize that, easing around an issue rather than addressing it directly doesn't bear fruit for anyone. And so in my experience talking to men, you get the sense of helplessness. You get the sense of powerlessness. And the truth is, men are not empowered, but men have used things to empower them. And the gratification that comes from persons saying, oh, a nice car, beautiful house, great, beautiful woman. But the reality is that man has not sat by himself in a space with his Creator, connected to his Creator, and derived value from that connection. And I think that now, in this time that we're living, because men are talking to me about spirituality, they're talking about various forms of connecting to the Creator, and saying to me, Dr. Dizzy, I feel lost. I literally don't know what to do. Okay. Some talked about committing suicide, and so we need to go back to the drawing board and stop making antidote living. I just want a quick fix. Men need deep healing, systemic healing. We need to be able to heal a lot of those things that we were given as a part of our identity of being a man, the job you have. Because now you don't have the job. Now you don't have the financial security. And so you feel empty and you're searching. This is where guys are going to start turning to drugs and using alcohol. But through research, I found that men in this period of time seek help when it best suits them, when it's comfortable, and when they feel it makes sense. And that's why men don't go to therapy, because it doesn't make sense to them. However, they would seek a coach because they can identify with the practical application of the principles of planning.
Okay, Adrian, you have mentioned quite a few things there, which you know, I think that is a nice way for us to introduce Mr. Clark from the Bahamas, who is really and truthfully a renowned correctional specialist. He's got over something like 20 years of experience as an elite leader within the criminal justice system in the Bahamas. Yes, he's an icon in correctional services, but he is also a cognitive behavioral specialist. And I welcome you to the Link Up, Mr. Clark. It's certainly nice to have you join us.
Me, and good morning to all of you in Barbados and my Caribbean brothers and sisters who are viewing the link. I'm just humbled to be asked to share on this show.
Have you heard, because it's interesting how even with Dr. Husbands, it's all come through, you know, and it's a nice package, everything linking itself, for want of a better phrase, this morning. Have you had an opportunity to listen to some of the discussion previously?
Yeah, I listened to all of the discussion.
Okay.
Actually.
All right, now go ahead.
I was intrigued. Yeah, I listened to the entire discussion. I was intrigued by the information I received from Dr. Husband, and even the information that Dr. Hazley is sharing with us now. It's like I'm learning so much as I share with you today.
All right, because one of the things that I wanted was real world experience coming from you, and you've got that in spades, and you have had the opportunity to work with men who are in really and truthfully difficult circumstances in there, and they're paying for it, you know. And one wonders, how does one make change, behavioral change, positive change, when faced with circumstances like those?
Well, I will start off with the mantra of my organization, which is the LEAD Institute, which is a community correctional organization. Our mantra states that all men fall, but the great ones get back up. You do not drown by falling into the water. You drown by staying there. We do not decide our future. We decide our habits. Our habits decide our future. So basically, to unpack that, men suffer, men are out of place because the loss of our identity. And we can, it's multi-layered in the sense of us losing our identity. We can look back to slavery. We can look back to the loss of our spirituality. We can look back at just the new identity the Western culture has put on us, especially us as Black males. And so as a result of all of this, we have suffered from what we call poor mental health. And, you know, just to define mental health, mental health just basically is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being.
No, continue.
Am I still on?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You are.
Right,
You are.
yes.
You're just on your own now, that's all.
Okay, and so as a result of that, in the field that I work in, the correctional field, where we find some 65% of the offender population suffer from some form of personality disorder, which is called antisocial personality disorder. And these individuals are basically dealt with in a wrong manner or treated wrong. And when I say treated wrong, I'm talking about as a with treatment to help them get over or get back and remain up. It's like treating somebody who has cancer with an aspirin. And that is what we are being treated. Our male men in our correct system throughout the Caribbean. And as a result, they have gotten worse. And like my mentor, Dr. Miles Monroe says, that, and I subscribe to that philosophy that the male is the foundation of the family. And by when we say the foundation of a family, when at a house, if the foundation is cracked, and the house is condemned, if you cannot make a dip, if one of the three omelet eggs that you're using for omelet is spoiled or rotten, so you're never gonna have a good. So goes the male, so goes the a relation, so goes the male, so goes the family, so goes the male, so goes the community as well as the country. Many of our problems rest upon males.
Sorry to jump in, but
Go on.
if this is the reality, why then does it seem as if society sometimes can, them to the wayside and deal with other aspects of society? It's almost as if, all right, it needs fixing, but not quite sure how to fix, so we'll just leave it there for now.
Right.
I don't understand that.
See, what happens is when we are unaware of certain things, we react to it. And especially when we talk about emotional intelligence, when we're dealing with treatment, and that reaction is negative. And so if we don't have the right set of action, we are going to treat the problem the wrong way, or we got band-aid on the problem, or we're gonna mask it, wake up, and hopefully, pig up at lipstick. That's how we deal with the whole situation, and it don't go away. And so we have to get the foundation and deal with the root causes that these men are struggling with. And like Dr. Daisley stated, a lot of times men don't go to therapists. It is taboo, or they're gonna stigmatize them and say, "Oh,
It's
you're crazy."
effeminate for some reason to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you find men more statistically commit suicide than women. Women, they talk their problems out with their girlfriends. They're going to talk their problems out with a member or a pastor. Whereas we men, we don't like to talk. We think we're going to bottle it up inside. And what happens is it grows, metastasizes, and as a result, it explodes out of control. And we don't see the problem until we see gang violence. We don't see the problem until we see home invasions. We don't see the problem until we see the escalation in crimes throughout our cities.
We're going to take a quick break, Mac. I'm going to let Dr. Daisley join the chat, because right now we seem to be going through a space of what I call negative energy when it comes to violence and to crime. And, yes, you can say that it's some people are hurting, they need to feed their families, but sometimes I think it might be a little deeper than that. So we're going to take a look at that when we come. Gaining some revolutionary insights on the link up today. We have Dr. Aidan Daisley and Mr. Troy Clark, and just now we were really getting some insight, I do believe, dive into the behavior and perhaps part of the reason for that behavior in some of our young men, and not only the younger men, men in general. I think I heard someone make a comment lately that the modern male is under threat. I wanted to ask them, but it was a conversation I was overhearing. No one was speaking to me, so I wasn't going to jump in. But I thought about it, the modern male under threat. What do you mean by that? What kinds of threats are attacking the modern male, and why is it only the modern male? Have times changed so that it's different for them as it was for the generation before? So Troy mentioned root causes. In your experience, what are some of the causes? Have you defined the reasons for bad behavior? And is that behavior bad, or is it a way of gaining attention? Is it retention? All of those questions. I want a short space of time. Sorry.
Basically, behavior can be from its genesis from either biological, psychological, sociological, and for the most part, it's a learned behavior. So, society needs to construct what is bad from what is good.
And sometimes then, do you think that we are inattentive to when the good ones are going bad? And why are we inattentive?
Because we don't know. We, like the Bible, which what I call the greatest source of literature, tells us, other than spare the rod, spoils the child, other than train a child in the way he or she should go, so that when he or she is older, although he might sway left or right, it'll come back on the same path. Those principles lie through, straight through. And I always tell people, you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be, but once you believe in spiritual principles and you adhere to these spiritual principles, it will play out in your life. And so as a result, when we don't treat children, let's say, who have opposition defiant disorder or conduct disorder, when they're small, they graduate from primary school into secondary school, into adulthood beyond the age of 16, from conduct disorder to antisocial personality disorder. And if we would have treated those symptoms or the causes to those symptoms in their earlier stage, then we would not have to deal with the havoc we are now faced with to deal with on our streets, in our homes, in our families today.
How have we failed them, Adrian? What were we missing? What did we see? Can you hear me, Adrian?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. If we failed them, what did we miss?
Well, I think we have gone into the generation an idea that it is okay to a problem when it becomes a problem. And in the old time days, I think we've moved away from our values. I was raised with values. Parenting is not an activity that you participate when you feel like it. Parenting is something that you do every single day. You don't only parent your children, you parent other people's children as well. I was raised with the idea that it takes an entire community. I think we failed them because we are no longer a community that is integrated. We're no longer a community that looks out for that child. We think as long as it's not my child, then it is okay, not realizing that the systems that we put in place, I believe that we have a systemic problem in our country, and I say in our country because I can't speak for, other countries. I can only speak for the experiences that I've had in Barbados, and I can tell you that we have put young people in a quiet place until they either get involved in sports and they become famous, or education and they become famous. But apart from that, we have this, young people should be seen and not heard thing. We have put young people out of, the policy making, decision making process, and made them feel as if I don't give trouble, I don't get it. The other thing is that our schools not be empowering our children enough. I have had conversations who said to me, my child goes to school and says to my child, you are not going to amount to anything, don't even try. Now, even schools that we even expect this kind of behavior is happening. The other thing, Peter, is that we have become afraid to talk about issues. If I see something going on in my neighbor's yard, in the old time days, I would call my neighbor on the phone. Now I have to be afraid that my neighbor would attack me. Say to me, Dr. Dizzy, you don't understand. There are parents that want to advise for speaking to them about the behavior of their children. Have guidance counseling in school. Guidance counseling is now practice where young people are going to guidance counselors. They've been to guidance counselors, but there is no real transformation going on in the lives of young people. I'm an advocate for young people simply because I know what it is like to grow up in a society and feel lost in a society. And I think young people need to feel listened to. They need to feel heard. But apart from that, we need to demonstrate through our policies that we are listening to our young people and putting things in place for them not only to be heard, but for us to make actions on their part as well. Young people say to me,
sorry. No, I'm not sure. Troy, how do we fix it? Unfortunately, my tongue today is lessened. But I'm thinking seriously that we need a longer period of time to really look at this and to thrash this out, because how do you say it? And something tells me that you're going to tell me it's not to be a quick fix, it's not going to be short. It's going to be a long time.
It took us a while to get to where we are and we have the ancient landmark. And because we have moved the landmark, we're going to be worse than the Israel who actually moved the ancient, wandered in the wilderness, and took how many years to a point which should have only took certain amount of time. They took X amount of time. So it'll take the same way, but we can start somewhere, one child at a time. If we decide to look at the man in the mirror and start with ourselves and reflect on our strengths, we can show up our weaknesses and then take on another sister and be accountable to that, and that another person be accountable to us, then we can begin to fixing the problem. Okay? It has to be, the problem is multi-layered. It has to be fixed in a faceted and multi-layered way.
Wow.
We can start with parenting programs within the schools, start the children from 10, 11, 12, start parenting programs to deal with that generation. Then we can start the children who are problems, make sure when we treating their issues, we put those into parenting problems. And so together we can start in the homes, in the communities, in the churches, and bring legislation to bear upon it, and the process will begin.
Wow.
I know it's a lot, but
I can see that situation fraught with lots of problems itself. We see some parents saying, who will mind the other children when I do these programs? I work until 8 o'clock. Y'all can pay me. If I can be here for 6 o'clock, y'all can pay me those 2 hours. You know, meanwhile, the child's the help is not getting it because, you know, their get blocks placed in front of that help.
It's not only the child, and it's not only the parent, it's family. So
right.
You have the dysfunction within the family. So you're not parenting, you're not just dealing with the child with the problem, but other family members contribute. You have to be unique. You have to find creative ways, what we call family intervention.
Okay. Can we make a promise that we will have a session on this? Because I'm seeing so many comments, you know, on the and so on, that this ending the violence and this campaigns are not going to work on less dot. So I would like us to find the dots and so thank you for the start. Thank you for the introduction. Looking forward to chatting with you again, and as we dig deep, get deeper.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having
me as well.
Thank
you very much.
Stay safe.
You too.
Coming up next, we're going to take a look at heritage. It's Heritage Month. It's June. And just how are we celebrating it in this time of COVID? In very interesting ways. And we'll find out how after the break. I was asking if Mr. Handyman has logged in yet. Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Standing by. When you talk about heritage, you're taking a look at all the things that make us us. Yeah, I'm talking about the food, where we are, the music, the traditions, the way we were raised, things that we talk about, our culture. And it's a special part of a people. It's not only its history, but it's also its present, and it's also its future. Heritage is a very special part of who we are. And we're celebrating ours in the month of June. Just how we're doing this, we get an opportunity to chat with Dr. Sharon Johnson, who's the Senior Cultural Policy Officer in the Division of Culture in the Minister's Office. Nice to have you with us, Sharon. It's always great.
Thank you, Peter. Good to see you again.
Thank you. And joining her will be the lady who has the task of assistant producing the activities, Jocelyn Hall. Nice to see you this morning.
Very nice to see you. Hello.
The last time we had some issues technically. Today's a great day, so let's get started. What was the month like? And then let's move through what you offered, what you planned, what worked, what might work. What have you discovered as we come up onto the 18th of June in celebrating our heritage?
Thanks, Peter. I like the way you started it off. Heritage is who we,
Who we
what makes
are.
us unique. That is it. That is
Thank
important.
you.
This year we decided. Well, we had no choice. COVID was lurking around, so we had to do everything online. I mean, we did it last year. Last year, it was a kind of, between last year and this year, it really was a learning curve for us, a learning experience. With the young people I work, I've learned to do all kinds of things that I never thought I would be able to do. I know videos and post them, and I'm becoming quite adept at things. It helps when you have young people with you. When I say about young, we have like 7 students, give back students with us this year,
Nice.
and they are behind the scenes monitoring what is going on, helping with the social. They are also involved heavily in the planning and implementing activities.
Nice.
Jaslyn is one of my assistant producer, but she has been doing it unofficially for many years. Jaslyn is one of my oldest heritage volunteers. This year, with everything happening so fast, she got on board officially to help us, and with her background in production, everything is going really, really well.
And the personality is,
yeah.
you know, like a little ball of fire.
Yes,
Yeah.
she is. She keeps me on my toes. So late at night, I get up from Jaslyn. Oh, Sharon, don't forget, we have to do this in the morning. And it's a beautiful relationship. It has worked well
Great.
over the years. So I mean, it is a learning curve for us, but I think we're enjoying it so
Good.
much here.
Good. And the reason why I couched the questions the way I did, because one of the things that, you know, people get stuck on is, okay, our national dish is flying fish and cuckoo, and our flag is ultramarine, it's not blue. You know, we get so caught up sometimes in those things that we don't realize the other things that might make us who we are changing, because life changes and grows and develops, sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way, you know, so all of that is all part of our heritage.
Yes, I think people get caught up in the difference between heritage and culture. Culture is ever changes. It is impacted by everything around us. We bring in all these influences. Now our heritage is what has handed down to us from generation to generation. And I believe that we can use that heritage as the basis to develop new and sustainable goods and services. And we're seeing it since the inscription 10 years ago. We have more, almost 8 to 9 new heritage stores coming on board. You've got Chatham House stores, you've got Lisa's Characters of Barbados stores, you know, so many different and exciting tours by the Garrison Consortium and by the museum. We have people doing soft furnishings, using images of the historic building, do throw cushions and clothing. You have people with t-shirts. You have heritage teas, a whole line of heritage teas, even hair care and body care products, where people are using some of those traditional herbs and processes to develop entire new lines. So these are where we talk about heritage. And I must say, this year is the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. And we use the opportunity to push the connection between heritage and the creative sector. So we've changed our theme, which looks at building a heritage economy for sustainable development. Because here we have this rich resource, which goes past the color of our national emblems, as you just said. So many things, even within our communities, the stories within our communities that we can build into sustainable goods and services, tours, unique tours, bespoke tours. All of these things are things that we now need to grab hold of and pull out and build into them that economic aspect of it that can deliver for Barbados and help to transform our economy.
And as Dr. Husband said in the beginning, you know, making your challenges work for you and being grateful for them, you know, because they show you how to develop and how to change. So now you all gone on an online platform, you know, so when you go back into society, you still have that as well, garnering you a wider audience, one who might not be able to physically walk the tour, but can, do it through the keyboard, and the mouse with the computer. So Jocelyn, how has planning been for you? And what kind of challenges do you face, and where are you now? What's coming next on the calendar? Because June is flying through fast.
I know. It's just gone really.
It's crazy.
Just gone really, really quickly. It's easy. Well, I'd just like to tack back a little bit. We're talking to Sharon about how heritage really is a living culture. Heritage is about history and what our forebears did, we are doing, and what our legacy will be on. So it's very much part of
macaroni pie and fried chicken.
We have a fantastic week coming up. Well, last 8 days coming up. It's going to be amazing. We started with the day, which is appropriate because that's where we all started from, and then we ended up in Barbados. So we had a fantastic Africa Day, and now we're into our third week. I think one of the things to really highlight is on Wednesday, BTMI are doing a tour of the Jewish synagogue and that whole historic site location. And what they've done at BTMI, they put a historian, and this Wednesday it's Paul Altman with an entertainer. And this Wednesday it is RP, Red Plastic Bag.
Okay.
So Red Plastic Bag and Sir Altman are going to walk around that whole historic district and tell us all the stories. Really looking forward to that. On Friday the 25th, it's our 10th anniversary of the inscription, and I'll let Sharon tell you a little bit more about. But one of the great things that we're looking forward to, and Sharon has mentioned that we're working with all these young people, is that on 26th, on Saturday, we have something called a 24-hour art challenge. And what it is basically is that on 9 a.m., you go to our Facebook page, we'll put out 3 heritage items and 24 hours in which to create an artwork. And then you send us your artwork, you artwork, and you put a hashtag on it, Heritage Challenge, and we have 3 judges who do the artwork. So it's a fantastic challenge, and it's for between 16 and 21. So if you're 16 and 20, between 16 and 21, you need to, on Saturday morning at 9 a.m., go to our Facebook page and find out what the 3 items are, and then create an artwork. I am so excited about that.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and this is tomorrow. I think our director was trying to remind us that tomorrow, the 19th, is your webinar.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, we Sharon is working on that. Sharon, to say a bit about that webinar.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, tomorrow we'll be discussing potential of heritage for the youth, and in that webinar, have some of our Give Back students again. They and another special guest will be Minister John King.
Can you show it again, Dawn? Can you bring up so that we can see the image that Sharon's talking about while she's talking about it? Sorry, the flyer that you just had with dollars and cents. I like that, and the cents is SENSE, which is brilliant. Yes. There you go. Dollars and cents of heritage.
So we have a number of our students, they're working with us, as well as an entrepreneur, Charterhouse Stores, and also a representative from BTMI, the manager responsible for products. And she will be speaking about what BTMI has been doing in terms of their training for tour guides and opportunities for young people as someone who's out there in the field. Again, linking it with the tourism sector. But of course, we want to be able to talk to our youth about the various career opportunities in the heritage sector, and what do they think that we need to do to get heritage to be seen as something that young people can get involved in. We have small numbers of students at UB, 2 or 3 sometimes studying history or heritage, and if we intend to build a sustainable sector, we need to have more young people being engaged with it, whether at the academic level or as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I think you're going the right way when you're talking about the various interns and so on, they working with you in getting them to actually physically join, do the work, because this is one way for them to feel they are part of something, you know, as if they are actually involved in the process. So it keeps them interested and engaged. And I think that you might find that they might encourage as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, like perhaps we need a few at the UWI getting on
That's
board
right.
with it. But you mentioned 10 years next week
Yes.
for our World Heritage Site. Can you
Yes, 10
imagine?
years.
Time has flown.
It has flown.
How has changed over those 10 years? You know,
Yeah.
I know that we started out thinking of the historic garrison and forgetting about their beautiful Bridgetown. But, and there's plans on board for beautifying Bridgeton and incorporating other aspects of culture, so on. Is that a secret, or can you give out just a few?
Well,
Can you share some?
anyone taking a walk through Bridgetown today can see so much activity going on. I think there are probably 4 to 5 development projects going in Bridgetown, all part of the effort to revitalize the city. Is the Golden Square that is going on, the 3rd phase of the redevelopment of the Tushin River, that is also a project that is going on. Work is going on at Parliament as well, and then work is also going on at Fairchild Street Market. So all of that is part and parcel of the redevelopment. You would have seen some of the even the removal of Nelson is part of the redevelopment of Bridgetown. And within the and of various government departments, the aim is to revitalize the city, to make it a place that people want to come, not only for work, but for leisure, see it as a place of leisure. Those of us who have traveled, go to European cities, and these cities are bustling with people, just enjoying the ambience of the city. And Bridgetown is an extremely beautiful place. I live most of my life just 5 minutes outside of Bridgetown, so I speak with it with a certain sense of pride. I think people only see the traffic jams and the garbage. I mean, it has those problems that we have to address those problems. But take a walk in the Bridgetown any Sunday evening, walk along the Corinage and along the magnificent that BTI have done. It is just a really beautiful place, very common.
Yes.
But we still have work to do. You talk about the 10 years. There's a lot of our focus has been on public education and awareness, because we came from a standpoint where most people over 60 never did Caribbean or Barbadian history. They would have done British history. Even I did American history at Barbados Community College with Trevor Marshall. So we start off recognizing that, look, the way to get people to talk about conserving and protecting and identifying with Bridgetown is through public education and awareness. So we started our free public tours. We had a number of tours. We had tours on specific events. National Heroes Day, we would have a free public tour. Independence, Christmas, all throughout the years. And then we started discussions with NCF. And NCF came up with something that just blew it out of the water. Then they did interpretive tours. They added all of the creative people and the reenact, and that had helped to spark the imagination, because Next, surrounding each historic site in Barbados is a story.
Of
A story of
course.
people who built it, people who live there, people who did things. So it's not just about the buildings. And as we say, if a building is lost, you have people in the media saying, "Oh, we're going to lose it." The inscription was not. We didn't get the inscription on historic buildings because Barbados has lost a lot more of its 17th and 18th century buildings due to fires and hurricanes. It is
Yes.
because of the 400-year-old serpentine street layout, which is unlike any other in the Caribbean. Most Caribbean countries have a grid pattern. We have retained that medieval street layout, which has not changed. And along those streets is where you got all of the stories, all the enslaved people going into the little alleys and conduct business, whether it is song and dance and singing and all these happening in these places. So that is what we celebrate about Bridgetown and its garrison, the stories.
And you
of what
have
made
the
it.
opportunity to actually get online, share that
Yes.
amazing history
Yeah,
worldwide. Thank
and
you.
we've
One of
spread
the
out.
things.
Ivan.
Okay, I think Jasmine
No,
says
I
something,
was just going to follow one of the wonderful things about living culture, living history. On Sunday, the 27th, we've got the Heritage Month Church at St Mary's, and it's not just a church service, but they're going to have acts there. They're going to have
Yes, I heard.
food, delicacies there. They're going to have a steel what's his name?
Mexico.
But yeah, that's right. So he's going to be there too. So in everything that we're doing, all the events and activities, it's not just about the building. It's about the people and the things that we get out
And
of that.
St.
building.
Mary's has played such an important part of Bridgetown itself, you know, in the life of the people and its school, you know, educating their children, you know, so it's a very special part of Bridgetown's history. Ladies, thank you so
Oh,
much.
can I just mention one thing?
Yeah.
One of my volunteers will not forgive me if I don't this event. All the month we've been having a book challenge, but on Monday the 28th, we're going to have a ramble and review with some Barbados authors, Dr. Denise J. Charles, Donna Avery, Andy Tate, the bookseller, and
Yes.
Linda Dean.
Nice.
So please
From
tune
Arts,
in to
etc.
that. That's at
Yes.
6:30 p.m. on Monday, where we talk about our stories.
And is there a link
Barbados.
we can get access to?
Yes, it's a Facebook link.
Okay.
Creative Economy Heritage.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Continue to push Barbados and its heritage to the forefront of Barbadians, first of all. And then the after that, I think we've lost a little bit of glow when it comes to, you know, how we feel about our home. But the little sparks that come back, and this is it. This helps to refocus our heart and our feelings for home. Thank you for the work that you do, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you
Please
very much.
on
Thank you for
our
having us.
regards to the others. I know that you all are
Thank you.
look
It's a
forward
big
to
team.
yes, to the 30th of June, when you can perhaps sleep for 24 hours.
Yes.
That's good.
All the best. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Peter.
You're
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. When we back, I'm going to learn about the Israeli-Palestinian. Yes, we're going to do a little jump. And you talk revolutionary insights. There's so much that we don't know. And yes, I know it's from the Palestinian side that I'm taking a look at this today. But we are still trying to find someone who can give us from the Israeli side, and we will. We will. But for now, We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we get an opportunity to chat with Mr. Lalu Hanuman. And Lalu is an attorney at law, but he's also the secretary of the group Caribbean Against Apartheid in Palestine. And so this should be more revolutionary insights when we come back. It's been in the news, the international news. It's been on the major news websites, and as a matter of fact, the Prime Minister or President of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, has, I guess, part of it, he's no longer leading their government there. New people are taking over, but how new are they? And, you know, will they make a change? Because it seems as though they also have the same thoughts when it comes to Israel and Palestine and the idea of the one state as opposed to two states. So what is it all about? We're seeking clarity, and, you know, I'm not making any bones about it. I think the only thing I do know about it is the year 1948 and the establishment of the State of Israel. So, Mr. Hanuman, welcome to the Link Up. It's a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Peter. Thank you for inviting me. I'm the Secretary of the Caribbean Against Apartheid in Palestine, and we've been in existence in Barbados for some 7 years now. We came into existence around about 2014, when there was one of the many Israeli onslaughts against Gaza. As you said, the State of Israel came in 1948, and in fact in 1947, November 1947, the United Nations General Assembly actually voted for the partition of Palestine. And I think that is a crucial starting point, because people ask, why are we focused on Palestine and not on Tibet or on Syria or on any other part of the world where there are potential human rights violations? And the answer is quite simply that what is happening in Palestine is the creation of the United Nations. And the United Nations represents most of the countries in the world. There are a couple of countries who are not members of the United Nations, but most of the countries in the world are represented in the United Nations. So that's a decision by the United Nations, and the consequences that have flowed from that is that there are now some 5 million Palestinian refugees in various surrounding countries, in Jordan, in Syria, in Tunisia, in Lebanon, and within the occupied territories itself, within the occupied territories in Palestine, as a direct result of that United Nations 1947 partition mandate that it gave to the, in effect, to the Zionists to establish their state. So what has happened is something that the United Nations is directly responsible for, and hence the global community is directly responsible for. It's not a regional conflict, say, for example, in between
Iran
Morocco
and so on, yeah.
Polisario Front or whatever. It's a global issue, and of course it has global consequences. The fact, for example, in Barbados here, that we have to take off our shoes before we board an aircraft at Grantley Adams Airport is a direct result of what has happened in Palestine, because it's led to extremism, it's led to ISIS, it's led to lots of things, Al-Qaeda. All of that is directly attributable to the existence of the state.
All right. Now, as I said, I am totally ignorant in the truest sense of the word when it comes to this topic. And I purposely didn't do any reading up on it, because I didn't want any preconceived ideas and so on. What I do have, unfortunately, is what I've been fed, like many others, with the Western media and the Israeli side of it. But one of the things as a human being that stuck out for me was the fact that in 19, and you say now even just 48, let's look at 47, this was a country with people living there. People living their lives. Imagine you're a Barbadian, you're living your life, going about your day to day, and then somebody decides that they're going to cut the country in half, and you Bajans can be on this side, and we're going to give the other half to another country, or create a country out of that half. And that got me to thinking about how I would feel as a Barbadian and that happening to me. But even so, those then that come into the country that was established for them, then seemingly to keep the Barbadians in order, then prevent us from moving around, going where we want to, having laws and our own way of life. We've got to live their way of life, and in order to keep us down, they're keeping us under their thumbs with weapons and so on. Am I getting this particular part of it right? I'm not hearing you. You're muted.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, I've come closer to the screen. Yes, I'm actually in court, so please excuse the background.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you for the time.
So there are some people walking around occasionally and so on. But anyway, they did the 1947 partition resolution of the United Nations did not divide Palestine equally in two halves. That's the only error you made. In fact, at that time, the majority population in Palestine was Palestinian. There were Jewish people coming in from Europe and so on, fleeing what has happened in Germany into Palestine, but they were not the majority population. But yet the United Nations gave some 3/4 of Palestine to that minority population and gave a quarter of Palestine to the majority population. So right away, there were seeds for conflict. And a lot of it, and I understand why, was to do with the sympathy that was being expressed to the Jews because of what happened in Hitler's Germany. There was global sympathy for the Jews, and that is completely understandable. But what is not understandable is that a group of countries decided to give somebody else's country to a third party without consulting that third party. And it's interesting that in the context of the Caribbean, because I don't know if you know, twice in Guyana's history, the British government, when Guyana was British Guyana, they actually considered creating the state of Israel in Guyana. And there was never any consultation with the Guyanese people. And likewise, the same thing happened in Palestine. Back in the First World War, there were Jewish regiments in Germany fighting against the British, and the British wanted to stop the Jews from supporting the Kaiser. And they actually issued a declaration known as the Balfour Declaration, the Balfour Declaration in 1917, whereby they promised Jews that they would provide a homeland for the Jews in Palestine. At that time, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire was fighting alongside Germany against Britain and France, their allied countries. And so they promised Jews at that time, in 1917, to create a homeland for Jews within Palestine. As I said, to try to create this unity within the military in the Kaiser's Germany. And then subsequent to the war, they were given the mandate, the control of Palestine by the League of Nations, and they allowed a number of Jews to migrate from Germany and other parts of Europe. This is before the Second World War, into what is now called Palestine. And this is how we end up in this scenario we're in now. And nobody's disputing that 2,000 years ago there were Jews living in Palestine. That's not disputed. But the Jews left Palestine. The Palestinians never pushed them out. It was the Italians, the Roman Empire, that pushed them out, and they spread all over the world. And whenever they were facing pogroms in Europe, which was quite often, they fled to the Muslim world for protection, Morocco and the Ottoman Empire and so on. And they were given civil rights there. They had more civil rights in the Ottoman Empire and in Morocco than they had in Europe in those days. They were protected. And today now we know that there's great hostility between Jews and Muslims because of the state of Israel coming into being.
And also that some of the places which have been denied them access are some of their holiest of places. So you're also impacting on their spiritual identity, you know. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue our chat with Mr. Hanuman. Lalu, you don't realize that you're now beginning to make my brain do like this. I'm now going to go and do some serious reading up on it, because it's one area that I think that is, I mean, up to this week, after a supposed ceasefire and a change of government, they've started, you know, the aerial bombardment on Gaza again. So one wonders what the reason is for it this time. We're going to take a break and come back. Getting some revolutionary insights into the beginnings of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and back in 1947 the decision being taken to establish the State of Israel, and that then was established in 1948. We have with us attorney at law and the secretary of the group Caribbean Against Apartheid in Palestine, Mr. Lalu Hanuman, here with us and giving us a part of the history. Let's take a look, though, at the present. One of the actual criticisms that has been passed truthfully by the West is that this current conflict was instigated by the Palestinians themselves, starting with their bombardment of Israel. Is that correct? And why would they at this time start new problems between the two? for want of a better way of putting it. I apologize.
Unfortunately, the media is very focused on Israeli propaganda. I mean, it's no indictment of the media in Barbados because obviously they don't have reporters on the ground in Palestine. But every day, there are Palestinian children, let alone adults, dying throughout the whole of the occupied territories as a result of Zionist actions. And in terms of the recent conflict, the one in May that you're referring to, sorry, there's background noises in the courtyard.
That's all right.
In East Jerusalem, where people have been living for generations, Palestinians, they're being deprived of their houses, they're having their homes taken away. And as a result of that, there's a lot of disquiet, justifiably so, within the Palestinian community. And then there was a great military presence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan. I myself don't subscribe to any religion, so I have no bias in any way, but I'm just reporting it factually. And because of the harassment and the evictions that the Zionist government was doing to the Palestinians in East Jerusalem, there was this conflict that arose. So it wasn't initiated by the Palestinians, and it's an ongoing struggle. For 70 years, over 70 years in fact, there's been this daily killing of Palestinians and invasions of their homes, demolition of their homes, evictions, imprisonment. The list is endless. And so it's admirable that the Palestinians, despite all of these daily provocations, have been able to withstand it and still be positive. And in fact, it's a very unequal contest rather. It's like the story in the Bible of David and Goliath, because the Palestinians are armed with jawbones and slingshots, as it were, homemade missiles, whereas the Israelis get all the latest military hardware from America, $4 billion a year. That is the level of subsidies to the Israeli government by the Americans. In fact, during the same conflict in May, Biden, who yesterday was talking with human rights in Geneva or somewhere with Putin, he actually provided $735 million worth of armaments to Israel during that conflict. So it's a very unequal conflict.
Lalu, what about the surrounding countries? Geographically, we're looking at places like Egypt and Jordan. Is Iraq out there? Iraq and Syria, that area. What? Because they would have had something like an Arab League or something. Did they come to the Palestinian defense?
Well, in 1948, they were certainly there. In 1967, when the Israelis started the Six-Day War, they were there. And of course, the Yom Kippur War in 1973, they were also there. But then since then, there's been lots of divisions amongst the Arab world. There are various opportunistic individuals. Obviously, most of the Arab world is very pro-Western. America, again, talks about human rights, but we know what's been happening in Saudi Arabia with Khashoggi and so on, the killing of Khashoggi. These regimes, they're beginning to open up to Israel purely for opportunistic, self-interested reasons and ignoring the plight of the Palestinians.
Well, you're getting the truth and what, well, is their truth. You mentioned the Western media, but you're getting the people within Gaza themselves trying their best to get the news out there and just seeking the world's help for the plight and the life, for the life that they're living. And I'm going to let you just do a quick wrap up after our quick break. So we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to come back and then I'm going to let you go back to court. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
time is certainly flying right now, and I take the opportunity to say thank you so much, Mr. Hanuman. Do you see, in the 30 seconds that you have left, what is the solution? How do you see an end to this conflict?
Well, the United Nations have passed several resolutions calling for the establishment of the state of Palestine, a two-state solution. So you'll have a Palestinian state and a Jewish state, with Jerusalem as the capital for both, but West Jerusalem for the Israelis and East Jerusalem for the Palestinians. And that is a working possibility. However, there's been a number of Jewish settlements, Zionist settlements in the occupied territories on the West Bank, such that really it'd be like a cheddar cheese type state with lots of holes in it, because Israel is refusing to hand over those areas that they've occupied and set up settlements in on the West Bank, and they're talking about doing flyovers and tunnels to link all the Palestinian territories together, which is a ridiculous proposal. Really, they need to demolish their settlements, withdraw to the pre-1967 borders, and the two peoples then can live in harmony.
Okay.
So that is the way the United Nations is now suggesting that they should go forward.
And the world perhaps needs to wake up and take a look at what's happening. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I know that you're really, pushed for time. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks. And thank you very much you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Link Up. Next week, we've got a very special Link Up, that's right, because among our guests will be the newest member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, international musician, the Honourable Dennis Bovell. I'm certainly looking forward to that. Please, invitation for you to join us Friday at 10.